welcome back to my channel. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it as always. Today we are going to be doing a full face of first impressions with the brand Collab. I had never heard of this brand before ever in my life until I stepped into a local Sally beauty salon and they were stocked full with all kinds of really interesting and cool makeup from this brand. And I didn't even know until I came home and started doing some research that it's actually done by YouTubers. So it's like a handful of YouTubers who get together and they make this stuff. And I have to say, y'all might be interested in what I have to say and my final thoughts on this stuff. So with all that being said, let's get into this Collab first impressions. We have foundations, we have concealers, we have bronzers, we have palettes, we have eyeshadows. We don't have mascaras, but we've got brow products, which is important. Also, I just wanted to mention really quickly that my next video, I want to do a Q&A. So if you have any burning questions for me, please ask them in the comment section below, and I look forward to doing that in my next video. So be on the lookout for that. All right, so I just put my hair back, so I am ready to go. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go in with the foundation. This is the Collab Bright Spark Radiant Foundation. If y'all have been following my channel for any significant length of time, you know that I have very dry skin, so the Radiant option was the best for me. This is $14.99. It comes with 1 fluid ounce, and I purchased it in the shade Ivory 02. I think this was the second lightest shade. The first lightest shade I think is like a pinky tone, but this has 1 fluid ounce, and this is what the bottle looks like. Really nice glass bottle, very nice packaging, and yeah, for $14.99, that's pretty damn good. Going with a Real Techniques, this is their new Sugar Rush something or other. Sugar Rush sponge, what's it called? Miracle Face Sponge. So I have about that much on the back of my hand, and I'm just going to pounce it in to the sponge and start putting it on my face. It is quite bright, and it does have a smell. It almost smells like the Wet n Wild foundation, the Photo Focus foundation, kind of like acrylic paint, if you know what I'm talking about. But so far it's going on nice and even. By the way, I already primed my face about 15 minutes ago. I used the Watts Beauty 100% Hyaluronic Acid Serum, and on top of that I used the Clinique Moisture Surge. So I put it all over my face, so I didn't like change it up or anything. Right away I would say this is a good, probably a medium coverage, and it's very comfortable on the skin. It's very light, almost a little bit cooling, which I appreciate because this room is kind of warm. So my first impression is it looks really nice on the skin. Like I said before, it is a very medium coverage. It has almost a little bit of a tacky feel, so I guess it hasn't like set quite yet. But since it's a radiant foundation, I don't know if it will set totally, but I do feel it. See, it's transferring onto my hands a little bit. But other than that, it doesn't really cling to dry patches. It covers some of my redness. It doesn't cover everything, of course, because it is medium coverage. I still have some freckles coming through. I have 2 here. I have a little sunspot right here. But all in all, the foundation looks really good on camera. It looks really good in person. And yeah, so far so good. So the next thing I'm going to go in with is concealer, of course, and I'm going to use the Collab No Flaws Liquid Concealer. This is what the packaging looks like. It is a very nice, significant little tube here. You get 0.28 ounces, which is quite a bit of product in the container here, and it's really cute. It's nice packaging. It's shaped like in an octagon. Show it. And yeah, how much did I pay for this? $12.99. So like I said before, it's kind of like Revlon prices, maybe a little bit upper echelon of the drugstore prices. But yeah, we're gonna go in with this under the eye. Nice doe foot applicator here, and I'm just gonna kind of dab it where I would normally dab my concealer. It does have a smell. It smells just like the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. Once again, kind of like an acrylic type of smell. So I'm gonna just put it right there underneath the eyes. This is in the shade Porcelain, so this is the lightest shade that they have. And I'm just gonna dab it with the Real Technique sponge. Once again, I would say that this doesn't have high coverage. I would say it's more of a medium coverage. It is covering up some of my dark areas, but not a whole lot. So, but I don't like a lot of high coverage underneath the eyes. I think it kind of like ages women who are, and men who are like, you know, getting up there in age. So, but it is a little bit on the radiant side, which I appreciate. And it's not drying, so it's not causing like my wrinkles to accentuate underneath my eyes. But my eyelids are creasing like a mother. I'm gonna put a little bit right here just to highlight the forehead. A little bit right there, a little bit right there. I'm just gonna put some down here on my little red spots to see if it will cover those. And just kind of check and see if it's good for like spot concealing. I'm gonna let that percolate on there for a few minutes. Because it's better if you have spots, it's better to kind of let it kind of set on there for a few minutes and then kind of dab it out. So that's what I'm gonna do. And in the meantime, I'm going to use bronzer. I'm gonna use the Collab Palette Pro Multidimensional Face Shaping Palette. This is what it looks like. It's nice, sturdy plastic packaging. And on the inside, these are the colors. So it has a really pretty shimmery highlight here, banana powder. It's got a corally, kind of an orangey blush, 2 bronzers, and they consider this to be a bronzer, but that is a very shimmery, like gold color. This would be probably a good highlight for medium and deep skin tones. I paid $14.99 for this, so for 6 colors, 6 powder products, I would say that's a pretty good price, I guess, depending on if they're any good or not. I'm gonna take my Charlotte Tilbury blusher brush, and I'm gonna just kind of dab onto this shade right here. This is considered a contour shade, but I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a contour shade. Just looks a little bit too warm to be. I'm kind of old school when it comes to that. I don't like to use warm shades as contour. I like it to look like a natural shadow, if you know what I'm saying. So anything goes nowadays. There's no rules to makeup. Everybody does whatever they want to do. I understand that, but I also like to follow some guidelines when it comes to natural makeup. That's actually a really pretty bronzer, and it goes on easily. It blends out well. It's a really pretty shade. It's not too like reddish. It's not too cool toned. It's just right there in the middle, which is really nice. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna bring some of this bronzer down a little bit just to match it up. All right, so far I really like this palette. This is the only shade that I've used so far, but I'm gonna be using this palette like throughout this video, so y'all will know my final thoughts after it's all said and done. Next thing we're gonna go in is eyes, and I picked up this palette. This is the Palette Pro eyeshadow palette. They had several different ones, and the cool thing about them is they all have an interesting duochrome. So this one has kind of like a reddish blue undertone, like duochrome. Another one has a different type of duochrome, and I thought this one would be like the most wearable for me because it has this shade in here, which I like to wear, and it's got this shade here, this like deep dark chestnut brown. And then if I wanted to kind of zhuzh it up a little bit, I could always go in with this duochrome on top. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna try this out. Let me see how much this cost. This was $10.99, and I think they have 4 different varieties. So they have like a pinky one, they had a corally one, they had this one, and I think another one. It might have had like purples in it or something. But I thought $10.99 was very reasonable for 8 eyeshadows that seem to be nice quality. And I think I'm gonna take this shade as a transition color all over my eyelid. Now these are actually quite hard, so they're not like the Anastasia where you touch them and they have powder that fall. This one is actually kind of a hard pressed, which I appreciate because you don't lose a lot of product right away. So I'm gonna go in and just kind of buff this shade all into my transition area. So like right under my brow bone. It's very pigmented. It's buildable though, which is nice. Sometimes it's nice to have an eyeshadow that isn't just bam. Some eyeshadows nowadays are just so pigmented that you go in and it's just full on right away. And I don't always like that. I like to have a little bit of control whenever I'm building up an eye look. You know what I'm saying? All right, next I'm gonna go in with a buffer brush into this color. It's kind of like a creamy beige, and I'm gonna put that right on the brow bone. So this one is a little bit more powdery. I don't know if you saw like the smoke plume just go, but I'm not trying to make it look like I have a really highlighted brow. I want it to kind of fade in to this color, this like orange color. And those two colors really complement each other. One is a little bit more orange, one is a little bit more peach, which makes it nice. So the next shade I'm gonna go into is this orangey shade here, and I'm taking just the opposite side of the Anastasia one. This is like the shader brush side. I'm just kind of digging in a little bit, both sides. Tap off the excess. You saw the smoke. It is a little bit powdery, but I'm gonna go in just to the upper crease, just to define that crease a little bit. So I'm doing it with my with my eyes open, just so I can map out the crease line. I'm not doing the cut crease per se, but I just want to define that color a little bit more. Once again, this color is buildable, so it doesn't have a lot of pigmentation. And the next shade we're going to go in with, of course, is going to be this deep dark brown. And once again, I'm taking this edge, like shader brush here, knocking off the excess. This one has a little bit more like fallout than the other three that I've used. So I'm just gonna make sure that I kick off the excess. And I'm gonna build up that edge, kind of that outer V, just to define the eyes slightly. I don't want to go in, you know, it's daytime. I don't want to go in like a full-on glam look, but I do want to have some dimension to the eye. And I'm just going to pull that brown out a little bit to elongate the eye. You see what I'm doing there? Almost kind of like a wing. So far, I really like how the eye look is going, but I'm going to say this. I feel like this palette really needs a brighter shade that's shimmery. Not necessarily a gold shade, because I don't think gold would go necessarily. I mean, I think it would, but it's just not the look that I'm going for. But I want to use this color, and I do plan on using it. But I just feel like it needs a brighter, like a champagne-y type of a peach, real glowy, like a peachy pink bronzy color, if that makes sense. So with that said, I'm going to try and go in with the highlighter shade on my eyelid to see if that works. If it doesn't, it might be a complete disaster, but I want to see how it goes. If it does not go well, then I'm going to use this shade, and that's why I picked up this shade actually. So maybe I should just go in with this one. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go in with this one. This is the Glitter and Go eye pigment from Collab. How much did I pay for this? $10.99, quite expensive for not a whole lot of product. 0.04 ounces is in here, and it's $10.99. That's a little out of my price range, to be honest. So I'm gonna just do a little swatch. So I have it on the back of my hand here, and that is what it looks like. So pretty. I mean, it's not unique, so I mean, it's not going to be something that you haven't ever seen before. It's a champagne color, but I like it, and it's something that is lacking in this palette for sure. So I'm going to use a little bit of the MAC Fix Plus on, this is a Minaj brush, not like a Nicki Minaj brush, but this is like an Amazon brush. Once again, I get a lot of my brushes from Amazon. And I'm just going to kind of paint it onto the lid. So now I'm going to go in with this shade right here, and this is like that duochrome bluish, like brownish green type of color. It's not going to focus on it, of course, but I'm just going to take it in between this like brown shade and that champagne shade. Oops. of course I'm gonna block y'all. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of impact right there on that edge. It's not gonna, I mean, it's not like a punch per se, but it just adds a little bit of interest. So it's really pretty actually. Now I'm gonna take that orange and I'm just gonna string it right underneath the eye and bring it down pretty far. I have a good bit of fallout actually from that blue-brown duochrome. So no bueno with that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other eye and I'll be right back. All right, I'm kinda wanting to use this shade in the inner corner just to kind of give it a little pop and see what happens. What do y'all think? I think I'm going there. Okay, so I'm just going in and I'm noticing it doesn't give a lot of impact, at least on camera. In person, I can see it with the lights and stuff, but it's just a little dark. So I'm gonna lighten it up with that highlighter shade. Just in the front, there we go. There it is. There she is. Now that's what I'm talking about. Next thing we're gonna go into is brows, and this is the Shape and Shade Ultra Fine Brow Pencil. I picked this up in ash brown, and I paid $9.99 for this, so that's pretty reasonable. And actually, it looks just like the CoverGirl Micro Brow or whatever. I'm going to just go right in and see what this is all about. First impressions on this, I really like it. It doesn't have a lot of pigment to it, so you can kind of be a little haphazard with your strokes, if you know what I'm talking about. And not too precise, but it does make a difference. It almost looks like it blends as it goes. So really good product so far. Defines really well. I'm gonna go in just a little bit right here because I'm somewhat sparse right there. I don't know why, but that's just the way, it goes. I'll grow a unibrow in like 2 days, but God forbid I like complete a brow right here. And the spoolie is nice, good quality. It's nice and like firm. So yeah, that's a good looking brow. This is the perfect shade. A little waxy, so as you go, it almost kind of pulls your brows down, which I need because my brows are like 5 feet long. Brows done? Yes, they are. All right, next we're gonna go in with the blush, and we're gonna take this palette again right here and go in with this really pretty shade. And it's like a corally, like a pinky corally color. Actually, can you see the difference? I think it had like an overspray over it. It's like orange, but when I dig into it, it comes out as a pink. I'm just take some off the back of my hand because it looks like it would be a little bit too intense. And I'm just gonna put it right on the back edge of my cheekbones. So not too much, just a little bit of color. I don't wanna look like I've been slapped. All right, now I'm gonna go in with the highlighter, and I'm gonna take a Sephora. This is the Pro Highlighter number 98. This is what the brush looks like, and I'm gonna take this shade right there, and I'm going to just kind of highlight the high points of my face. That doesn't have a mirror. Oh my. All right, so that actually looks really pretty. Jeez, what's the deal with this makeup? Like, it's working out. And as I always do, I'm gonna take the highlighter and I'm just gonna highlight the middle of my, like in between my eye area, because it just kind of makes my nose look a little bit less. All right, last but not least, I'm gonna go in with the lip color. This is the Collab Matte Addiction Liquid Lip Color, and I paid $9.99 for this. This is in the shade KINK, and I thought this was a really pretty color. It reminds me of shades that I wear kind of every day, you know what I'm saying? Right away, it does have a little bit of a scent to it. Almost kind of a light, very light chemical smell to it, but it's not overpowering. I'm kind of weird with smells. Oh, very pretty. It goes in full pigment right away. Alright guys, I'm going to curl my lashes, put on mascara, and then I'll come back with my final thoughts. Alright guys, so now we're going to do like a first impressions roundup. First thing I wanted to talk about was the Collab foundation. I have noticed over the course of, you know, time, and I'm starting to kind of sweat and stuff, that it is separating a little bit on my chin. It kind of like sunk into my pores so I could see like polka dots, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's not really my favorite. In fact, my L'Oreal Pro Glow has never ever done that. So for the price, for $14.99, I'm kind of gonna lean towards not recommending it for that reason, because I think as the day wears on, it's just kind of gonna get worse. And I hydrated my skin very, very well. I hydrated it as I always do. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna skip on this one. I'm probably going to return it. Next up is concealer, and I have to say that I really like this concealer. I like the packaging, I like how much you get in it, I like the coverage, I like everything about it. It didn't go into my fine lines, it didn't dry me out underneath my eyes, it didn't sink into any places that I didn't want it to sink into, but it also, on the opposite end of the spectrum, that a lot of people probably won't like about it, is it's not super high coverage. So I would say this is probably a medium to medium high coverage. And when you're looking for a concealer, that's not something that most people gravitate towards. They want to gravitate towards the really, really high coverage, high pigment concealers that's going to cover every single thing. And I do understand that if you have a lot of pigmentation, a lot of discoloration that you have underneath the eyes. But for me, this one worked really, really good. And so for the price, for $12.99, I think it was, I do recommend it. The next thing I used is the Collab Palette Pro Multidimensional Face Shaping Palette. And I actually really, really liked this. The 4 shades that I used, this one here, this bronzer here, the blusher, and the highlight, all worked phenomenally well. They blended out great. There's not a lot of pigmentation, but it does make it buildable. And that's something that you lack nowadays. Everything is so high pigment and so like bam in your face that you lose the ability to kind of customize products as you want to. And this product is very, very nice. I didn't use the banana powder and I didn't use this bronzer right here, but everything else worked phenomenally well. And I would say this is a very good product, something you can easily travel with, and I do recommend it. Next up is the eyeshadow palette, and I have to say I was very impressed with this eyeshadow palette. You get 8 shades. I wouldn't say it's unique shades per se, but they're very good quality shades, buildable shades that you can kind of customize the look. Like I was saying with this palette, you can customize it, you can build it up, you can make it look exactly how you want it to look without overdoing it. And that's something that is hard to find nowadays in products and palettes and eyeshadows themselves. I used 6 out of the 8 shades, and all of them performed very well. Some were a little powdery. This one has a little bit of a powder, like poof ball or whatever you call it, and this one did as well. But that's very common, and I can't fault the formula at all because it did work very good. The duochrome had, I would say it was a little bit of a letdown. It wasn't as impactful as I was expecting it to be. If you're gonna buy the palette, buy it for the whole palette and not just for the duochromes. Next up is the brow product, and this is the one that I think blew me away the most. This is the Shape and Shade Ultrafine Brow Pencil. This was $9.99, which is a decent price for a brow product. I mean, Anastasia is like $26, $24. I haven't bought them in a long time because the CoverGirl has kind of taken over my life. But this one in the shade Ash Brown, it really impressed me. It has a good formula. It's a little bit waxy, a little bit pigmented. It's not overly in either category. It just works really good. You can kind of go in there and you're not really thinking too hard about it, but it's still doing its job. I mean, like you saw, I went in there and I was just like, bing, 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 done. And it just looks really good. It looks natural. It just looks really good. I just can't say any more about it. $9.99, it is a for sure, go pick it up. Next up is the pigment, and I'm gonna say I'm not gonna recommend this. This was very expensive, $10.99 for just a little bit of product, something that you might use every once in a while for like a pop of color, and I just don't think it's worth it. It's a very pretty color and it worked fine, but you can buy these all day long from NYX, I mean like any brand out there has tons of pigments. I think L'Oreal has pigments too. And it's gonna be just as good. Last but not least is the Collab liquid lipstick. This is in the shade KINK. And I have to say, I was very impressed with this shade, with this formula. It just goes on very like liquidy, but you have a lot of control over it, if that makes sense. It is very pretty. It's not sticky at all, and it dries down within a minute or so. This one is gonna be my new go-to, and I just really love this color. It's very natural, very 90s. I kind of like that really. And yeah, for $9.99, I'm digging it a lot. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this collab full face of first impressions. That is a mouthful to say, but I hope y'all found it enjoyable, helpful, informative, useful, and all that stuff. If you did, please give it a like and a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. You know, I like doing this stuff, and we're almost at 4,000 subscribers. I'm so excited. So also don't forget to ask questions down in the comment section below. I'll be working on that on my next video. And yeah, I'll be seeing y'all very, very soon, hopefully with a Q&A. See y'all later.